Hey everybody, back with a review, and I would just like to start it by saying the Australian women directors are really killing it lately. Recently, my favorite short from the Etheria Film Festival of Shorts was Mia Kate Russell's Maggie May, and now my favorite horror movie so far of 2020 is directed by a first-time feature director out of Australia named Natalie Erika James. And I would highly recommend to horror fans that you search out the movie Relic. Now, this is not the old, I think it was in the 90s, something about like a missing link ape escaping in a museum or something. I don't remember. This is not the Relic. This is a relic from 2020 out of Australia. Now, I'm not going to spoil this movie because there are some things that happen in it that would definitely spoil it for you. I am going to keep this pretty much as a, if you're a horror fan who likes kind of the A24 style, slow burn, definitely not super jump scary at all, then you might be looking into this movie. So let me give you the basic idea. There's three main characters, three generations of women in this family. It starts out and you see a bathtub overflowing in a house. And then downstairs you see an older woman. She is partially undressed. She seems to be kind of staring off. The Christmas lights are blinking. And you know something's not right. And then shortly after that you see two other women who are her daughter and her granddaughter. And you hear a voiceover of a phone call saying that their mother has been, or their grandmother in this case, both of them, has been gone for several days and they can't find her. So quickly you figure out that the daughter and the granddaughter are heading out to the house to see what has happened to this woman. You know, has she, and there's some indications that she might have dementia. And it's not really strictly stated. It could be Alzheimer's, something that shows that she's forgetful or might have wandered away from the house. And they're, of course, worried about her welfare. Now, here are the three main characters. You've got Edna by Robin Nevin. She is the grandmother slash mother, the older lady. She's been in several things. You definitely maybe would notice her from, I think, the last two Matrix movies she was in. Then you get Edna's daughter is Kay, and she's played by Emily Mortimer. She's in a bunch of stuff. She's one of those people, as I was watching the movie, I kept saying, like, I've seen her in things. What have I seen her in? I looked her up, and she was in Lars and the Real Girl. The newest Mary Poppins she's in. She was in a bunch. She's been in a bunch of stuff, so she's definitely well accomplished actress. And then the youngest woman, so the granddaughter of Edna, is Sam, and she's played by Bella Heathcote. Probably most recognizable from Neon Demon, but she's done a few things recently. So all three are excellent. It's basically a three-person movie, except for a few people kind of come in very, very short periods, but mostly it's these three people. So you have the basic setup. The grandmother's gone missing. I'm going to keep saying, I'm going to say Edna, because she's a mother and a grandmother, depending on which other character you're talking about. So Edna's gone missing. Kay and Sam show up to her house, to Edna's house, and are trying to figure out what's happened to her. And what you get is an excellent mood piece, super creepy. This movie is filled with dread. There's definitely elements of sadness. There's elements of dealing with how do you deal with a person who's older, who may be going through dementia and may not be able to care for themselves. So there's a lot of serious real life stuff in this movie, but it plays out in a way that works as a horror movie, but also doesn't have to be a horror movie. It's super psychological, but don't let that fool you. There are some horrific elements, especially in the third act. But I would say creepy and creeping dread, and the overall kind of feeling I get from this movie. Now, once again, I don't want to spoil it. There are events that happen throughout this that change the course of these characters' lives, and it is if you can stick, I would say, through the first two-thirds of the movie, or maybe at least half of the movie, some events occur that really, to me, were super satisfying. And the final third of this movie, I think, is excellent. It's a little bit mind-bending, super creepy and scary. Scary in the way that works on me, not like jump scares, not like, a monster chasing you, although there's some elements of something sort of chasing something, but it's done in that way that's I don't even know how to describe it. If you, I get the feeling of scary stories you tell in the dark. What with those had all illustrations, it almost feels like one of those illustrations come to life in some ways to me. And there's a very final stage to this movie, and this is one of those movies that really lives or dies on how it ends up. Because it teeters between metaphor and reality of the horror. I'm trying to stay vague here again. And I think it nails the landing. I think that the final moments of this movie are really breathtaking. They're both horrific and sad and emotionally super satisfying. And the implications are really great. Now, I know I'm not giving you guys a lot of concrete things to go off of here. First of all, if you're a horror fan, especially the types I said, I would say go seek it out. If you're not a horror fan, this may or may not work as well on you. But I think if you're into really interesting, metaphorical, serious family dramas, I think you could also enjoy this movie quite a bit. And one of the things I also love about this movie is there's a ton of really subtle stuff. It's not as Easter eggy as something like Astor, which I really love his stuff. But there are a lot of subtle things in the setting that you can notice that really add to the, probably I would think, rewatchability of this for me as well. There's also a lot of great details as far as, so for example, they go into the house and the mom is gone and there's little post-it notes all over the place. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, this is a person that's, dealing with dementia or can't remember things. So they have to put post-it notes to remind them, turn off the faucet, close the refrigerator door, those kind of things. But those post-it notes slowly play out as the movie goes on, and it becomes more and more interesting how those play in. Another aspect is there are locked doors throughout the house from the inside, like bolts. And you think the mother is, afraid. She's living alone. She's an older lady, living alone in this big house, basically in the country. So it makes sense that she has all these locked doors. But all those locked doors start to have an effect on the story as well. And in some ways, it's things go bump in the night, old dark house, locked doors. This is all very tropey, almost haunted house kind of stuff. But the way it's played here is it really twists it and gives it a really, really interesting payoff, I think. So for me, this is about a 4.5-star movie. It could go up in my opinion, because once again, I don't think 5 stars are like the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail for me is a classic. 5 stars are achievable by lots of movies. I don't know why some people make it such a big deal. Anyway, this is, I would say, a 4.5-star movie for me. And for horror fans, I think you could find a lot to love here. And I hope I hope that horror fans discover this movie. I think it will become well loved. So I would say go out. And I didn't say where you can get it. So this can be rented currently, streaming. It just got released, so it's about $4 or $5.99 depending on where you go. I did it on Amazon. I think it might be available also on like Apple and a couple other places. I'm sure the price will go down with time. For me, it's worth the rental. This is one I would have gone and seen in the movie theater and been thoroughly happy paying the full price for it as a horror fan. So I would say go out and support, especially indie filmmakers, first-time directors of features. They need this kind of support so they can make bigger and better things, or at least better things. They don't have to be bigger. This is just big enough for me. So once again, Relic, directed by, I want to make sure I get it right, Natalie Erika James. Excellent job.